I'm Ken Shigley, President of the State Bar of Georgia. Today is April 3rd, 2012. The General Assembly adjourned last Thursday night at midnight, sine die. They were more efficient in getting out of town on time this year than they have been in some recent years. That's good news for lawyers trying to serve in the General Assembly and practice law, I'm sure. There are a number of things of interest to members of the bar that we'll cover briefly, and you can go to the bar website to read the text of each bill in detail. First is criminal justice reform, House Bill 1176. The problem addressed by the Criminal Justice Reform Council beginning about a year ago and coming through this session of the General Assembly is that Georgia has one of the highest rates of incarceration in the United States or in the world. About 1 out of 70 Georgians are behind bars. That's expensive. Over $1.1 billion a year is going into incarceration. And if that's not changed, if the cost curve is not bent down, we're looking at another $250 million in the next 5 years. The General Assembly passed a portion of what the Criminal Justice Reform Council had recommended. The bill includes provisions on accountability courts, drug courts, mental health courts, and so forth, and reclassifies a lot of offenses. There are things left to be addressed next year, and I expect the governor will extend the life of the Criminal Justice Reform Council to continue working on this. The bar supported this. The bill wasn't yet available when the Board of Governors met in early January, but the board did go through our Standing Board Policy 100 procedure for endorsement of the content of the council report, which was later incorporated into legislation, and following the procedures to allow the president, in consultation with the immediate past president, the president-elect, and the chair of the Advisory Committee on Legislation, to act when things are happening fast during the General Assembly session. I sent out letters and articles and so forth in support of that. It passed virtually unanimously. Secondly, the Open Records Act revisions that were pushed by Attorney General Sam Olens. The bar had some input on tweaking that bill back in the fall, and it did pass overwhelmingly. Third, we had supported dedicated funding for indigent defense through a constitutional amendment to assure the money raised for that purpose would actually be used for that purpose. Representative Rich Golick had sponsored that. That did not pass. However, we did get about $40.5 million of the roughly 41 or so million being raised by those dedicated sources. That's actually in the budget. So what we didn't get by constitutional amendment, we did get in the budget essentially. So we consider that a win as well. The Georgia International Commercial Arbitration Code, Senate Bill 383, did pass. I think that's going to be a big boost for Georgia's role in the global economy over the coming years, along with the expansion of the Port of Savannah, the new international terminal at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, and so forth. The folks in Atlanta who do a lot of international commercial arbitration see this as a big boost. The Uniform Interstate Depositions Act, that's actually Uniform Interstate Depositions and Discovery Act, HB 46, sponsored by Representative Ed Lindsey, passed early in the session. That's going to be a big help for Georgia lawyers litigating cases that require discovery in other states that have also passed this Uniform Act. There was a provision for our bill that would have allowed court reporting firms to enter into contracts to give special rates to preferred customers and to deregulate court reporting firms. That did not, we opposed it, it did not pass. The Juvenile Code proposal that started out with the Young Lawyers Division of the Bar has been a labor of love for a lot of people over a number of years, and that we did endorse after some changes were made in February to try to bend down the cost curve and take out some of the things that were controversial in the bar. got through the House, through the Senate Judiciary Committee, but new cost estimates that were pretty scary started coming out of state agencies after it passed the House. It stalled out in Senate Rules Committee because of those cost estimates, and the proponents will go back and work on it again for next year. The Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Bill, HB 744, did pass late in the session. This deals with situations where property is passed down in families without the formality of probate, and title gets very confused, and this provides a way of dealing with that more efficiently than previous law. The bill on service of process to begin to create a statewide system of approving private process servers did pass. It's not in effect yet, but it's moving toward that statewide system. That's HB 1048. Those of us who have been frustrated with getting service of process through some sheriff's offices may find that of practical value. Tom, tell us some other things that happened.
Well, one other bill that did not pass, it's one of those snake bit bills, or we call it a snake bit bill. House Bill 129, it was a bill that we introduced last year, or had introduced last year, to prohibit transfer fee covenants being placed in closing documents. This had been a practice that had been going around for in a number of states for a while, and the bill easily passed the House. In the Senate last year, it had other legislation tacked onto it that the bankers were interested in, and the bill never made it to the floor of the Senate, not because of the substance of the issue in 129 on the transfer fee covenants, but because of the other legislation that was tacked onto it. Again, this year, the same thing happened with exactly the same bill. There was a fight between developers and bankers. That legislation got tacked on to House Bill 129, and again, it was defeated. While it passed in the Senate, this time it was not taken up on the floor of the House. So that's one of those bills that should have passed, but didn't, and didn't pass not because of the substance of the bill, but because of all the other procedural things that were going on at the end of the session that brought that bill down. One of the main issues in the state legislature during the session is passage of the budget. And we had a number of items that we were interested in. We've talked about them before. Ken mentioned one of them. We got $40.5 million in the budget for indigent defense, the largest sum ever, and kind of was an indication that this legislature and this governor is committed to funding indigent defense. And so we expect that funding, appropriate funding, will be maintained over the next few years. We hope so, and we do have a constitutional amendment in the background just in case. So that was a good sign. We fully funded ICJE to the tune of about $450,000. We funded legal services for victims of domestic violence to the tune of about $1.8 million, what we had requested. And probably the most satisfying was we were able to get increased funding for the Appellate Resource Center. The legislature had been funding that at the tune of about $550,000 a year, and we got that increase this year to $800,000, and returned to the levels that we had seen for funding for that agency in the 2006-2007 time frame. Beyond that, while the General Assembly has adjourned sine die, there's still a number of issues that are going to be discussed over the next couple of months. We're going to have discussion of the garnishment process. Legislation or resolutions were introduced. I don't think they were passed on medical malpractice issues. There will be further study on the juvenile code. We know there are going to be continuing efforts on criminal justice reform. There's a traffic study committee that's looking at traffic issues and minor traffic offenses. So it's going to be an ongoing effort over the course of the next several months. Finally, I guess we couldn't do this without a lot of help, and I'll tell you, we had great leadership from the Chief Justice, Court of Appeals, the Superior Court judges. We worked closely with the prosecuting attorneys and the DAs on a variety of issues, ACCG, the county commissioners, the Chamber of Commerce. We were lucky enough to work closely with the Chamber on a number of issues this year. And clearly the legislators, the chairman of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, Wendell Willard and Rich Golick, Kurt Thompson, Bill Hamrick, their staffs, the staff of the House and Senate Budget Office, and the governor's office and his legal staff, and last, if not most important, the legislative counsel's office, the group of lawyers who turn ideas into legislative language. We could not have survived without their help and the collaborative effort with all of those folks. Finally, it's election year. Some 17, 18 members of the House adjourned or have decided not to run after they adjourned this year. 5 of those are lawyers. So it's election year, so get engaged, and hopefully we'll return some lawyers to the General Assembly next year.
Thank you, Tom. You beat me to the punch on recognizing a lot of folks that we worked with. I think I've really been blessed to be a state bar president during an era of good feeling when we have such wonderful relationships with the governor's office, legislators, committee chairs, committee members, really across the board, as well as other groups in the judiciary. I've enjoyed working with the Chief Justice and other members of the court. We've, as you said, we've worked with the Chamber of Commerce, which is something we might not have seen a few years ago. Something that's not legislative that's in the works. The bar and the Georgia Chamber of Commerce have just agreed to do a joint task force on electronic discovery. It's been a good year, and as my father-in-law would have said, a reasonably adequate year. Thank you very much.